Welcome back again to our second session of tonight's Nordic Talks on sustainable food for all. My name is Frode Solberg. I'm the Norwegian ambassador here, and I'm joined with a very excellent panel this evening with my colleague from Finland, Pekka Metso, and as we have heard, Eva Tornberg from Sweden, and Eun from Korea. That I would like to give you another applause. We were for two very exciting introductions to sustainable food. There are plenty of issues that we can discuss this evening. I would also like to once again encourage you to send in questions on Slido and on the where you are following us already, all of those who are watching us from your screens back at home. So please do that. We'll make sure to bring as many of them into the discussion later on. We have to eat more seaweed, and we have to eat more potatoes. That's at least two very concrete takeaways this evening. But it's good to know that there are sustainable solutions on the way. We see that things are happening, and I think that gives us reason to be optimistic. And that is, of course, very important in days like these, I think, and based on the challenges that we have discussed in our first session tonight. Before jumping into the more concrete issues that Eva and Eun has shared with us this evening, I would like perhaps to ask one question to Pekka first, to lift the discussion or to have maybe a more top to bottom approach as well. But in this area, we have been this evening touched upon it with different angles. But perhaps, Pekka, if you can share, what can policymakers do? How can we as governments and representatives of governments, what can we do to ensure a more sustainable food production as well as consumption? And perhaps you have some insights from Finland to share with us.
Very good. I'm really glad to do that, Frode. It's been inspirational here today. I eat a lot of seafood nowadays. I will, after my years in Korea, I will be eating even more. And potato is not the potato what we heard from Sweden. When I traveled to Iceland a couple of years back, I had the 5 kilos of souvenirs with me. My family was laughing. What did I bring? I bought Icelandic potatoes because I think the volcanic soil is special for potatoes as well. So where you grow, how you grow, it really makes a big difference. Tomorrow we are going to Jeju. I hope I will find the golden Jeju potatoes there as well. That will make me healthy again. But I really believe in that it's not just potato, it's not just potato. But as Frode was making reference here to that it's really important to have that public and private cooperation when we think about sustainability for meaningful impact when we talk about food. We have in Finland something that we call National Food 2030, almost like in the climate, but also in food. We have 2030 that focuses on things that are climate neutral, sustainable, and competitive food production. So our Finnish innovators in this field are supporting this policy by generating sustainable food solutions that highlight the importance of sustainability on multiple levels. A great example of this, I was living now 5 years back in Finland, and I have to say that I found also in Finland some great innovation to my table, and that is we have alternative sources for protein. For example, there's a pulled oats by a company called Golden Green Foods that uses the combination of oats, fava beans, and pea protein, and this has become a massive hit in Finland. And I was growing up in the 60s, and there was Lucille Ball who was drinking this omega fish oil, and she was saying, and it tastes like candy, but I can assure you that this product, although you may be susceptible, it tastes great. And you can work in different ways. You can forget about meat when you buy this. So I say it from my own experience. So that's one that we really want to bring that also internationally, So a little bit like you are talking about seaweed, we talk about these pulled oats. There was a time that you couldn't find it in Finnish grocery store. It's sold out. It's so popular. People feel good about that. And the second thing is what Finnish dairy giant Valio has been successful with. It's called MIFU, and it's an award-winning milk-based meat substitute designed to support the so now fashionable flexitarianism, as we call it, and encourage more informed food choices. So I think these kind of things are really very, very much in our time. And even, you know, men, the stubborn Finnish men, have started to eat more products like this, forgetting about the meat. And I'm sure this will show in few years' time that some of our sort of like diseases that have been bothering and plaguing us for years will not be anymore in the same, you know, position as they are now. And so I'm, as an old man, I was very happy to join this movement. They may call me too old to be a hipster, but I don't care. We have to change our eating habits even by this age.
Thank you, Pekka. We need all of us need to adapt and change, I think, and that's a good take. Thank you so much for sharing some of the Finnish perspectives and also personal. But maybe also then back to Eva and Eun on your presentations. I mean, we have talked about in the first session tonight as well that we have issues with regard to, there are some major challenges ahead. If you can describe a little bit based on that, what are the biggest challenges? Is it waste? Is it climate change? Is it sustainability? Maybe Eva, you can share what would you think is the biggest challenge?
Of course, this rising population and scarcity of food is fundamental. That is really a problem. But what has not pointed out is the water shortage. I think it's very, very, especially for producing crops. You know, China, India, and United States are produce half of the world's grain, and they have shortage now of water. It's really a problem. I think it's really, we should focus on trying to make it to cultivate crops that don't need so much water, like the almonds, for example. Take a look in California, where they have so little water and burning and so on. But it's with the almond, it tastes good. We have to eat better, healthy. But when you come to the end in the Western countries, anyhow, it must taste good. It's so important that we try to make sustainable food that is tasty, so you really buy it. Even us older people, that we are a little bit spoiled. So you know, that's. I think it's very important to. And as me, I'm a product developer. I'm a food scientist, and I'm very concerned about the consistency and so on, that it should be the right consistency, and that has very much to do with the protein chemistry and all that behind. And I think that is the focus of our company. Anyhow.
Thank you, Eva. What would you think was the major challenge?
Yes. In my expertise, during the winter season, normally we culture seaweed in the farm. By the way, during the winter seasons, the seawater temperatures is a little bit going up, and the cultivation season is going shorter and shorter. So that means we need some. We have to develop some new strains to fit to that environment.
Exactly.
Yes, that is very big issues.
So in a way, climate change,
Yes.
Water, Eva, which is maybe also due to a growing world population. But you both, as scientists, What can science do? You have touched upon briefly, but what can science do to, how can we contribute?
Yeah. Anyway, we in the science space, we have to develop some more the varieties using very the diverse gene bank. So because in our institute we have a seaweed gene bank, so we have to collect many strains from the natural populations and also culture farms together. So using those resources, we can develop very
resilient.
Yes, right. That's right. Yeah. So genetic diversity, we have to conserve the genetic diversity also. When we can make that, we can develop new varieties. Yeah.
Interesting. Eva, what would be your perspective? We seem to be, is your microphone muted, or do we have a challenge here?
Don't you hear my voice?
Now we can hear you perfectly.
Oh, thank you. I think food science is very important when the other time, all the preservation techniques that has been, this is food science behind, and food engineering and so on. So it's very fundamental. And for example, food science nowadays, we are very focused on utilizing byproducts from different crops. You know, we want to use everything and make new products out of that. And for that, you must know the chemistry behind it. And that's very fundamental. And I think that to use the whole crop and so there will be no byproducts. It's a big trend in food science nowadays. And I think that's very good. But if we come to people out in the underdeveloped countries, it's so important that we can, for example, this milk I talk about, it's UHT treated, it's ultra high temperature treated, and that can be stored for 1-2 years, and it's so easy to distribute them, and so on. These techniques are so fundamental for solving the problem, really.
But you have touched upon, both of you have mentioned the many of the benefits that can come from both, more extensive use of seafood, seaweed, potatoes, rapeseed, whatever it might be, sustainable food, and some of these benefits. But in your opinion, what are the biggest obstacles? Because there might be some obstacles, so how can we support this further on?
Yeah, the obstacles to develop all these new things is money.
We heard that from Sweden before with a famous band. money and market. It's, you know, well, in this, I think in our company, I'm doing the product development, but that is not all. You have to have a marketing man, you have to have a CEO, and you have to find someone who is investors and so on. There's so much. You have to collaborate with a lot because there's so much knowledge to be needed in order to get to a product that can be launched and sold over the whole world, if you want. And that of course very important, because you underline the need for money, the need for funding, the need for cooperation, that we all pull together, and I think that's very important.
Yes.
Eun,
yes.
Would you have any comment on that issue?
Also, there is 3 categories of ecosystem service by the seaweed. First one will be provisioning service, such as raw materials. We can get food and feed and energy, and also aquaculture using that. And second one will be regulating service of ecosystem process, such as natural cycles of oxygenations and CO2 sequestrations, and nutrition cycling, and also waste purification and treatment. And the last one will be cultural service that benefit humanity, and through the experience of natural environments and leisure activities and the value of marine biodiversity. So that will be the great thing of seaweed, I think.
Pekka, please.
Yeah, I've been listening to both of you with a great enthusiasm, and one thing that I would like to also bring into the discussion, also Korea, you have quite a tough climate here, so I think what we all are hearing tonight here shows that coming from a climate like what we have in Nordic countries, so we kind of like become agricultural innovators by ourselves. We don't have the beautiful vineyards where we could just pick up the grapes and drink the fantastic wine. We have to be more innovative even in that field, but we have found something there as well. But then I think what is also, we talk so much about the Nordic values. Our societies try to deliver to the people the public good, and the public safety that comes through the food is one of the public goods. One thing that I think quite often has been brought up in our case is that since 1948 in our schools, the kids have been getting the school food, you know, meal that are included, so you're not paying anything for that. Once again, putting people on the equal footing, whether you come from the very poor background, you will be on the same food, but at the same time, the food is nutritious, and nowadays, there's a quite strong emphasis that also these plant-based options are there available, and this system since 1948, after the war actually, in our case, so it really follows, you know, all the latest dietary suggestions and what the best knowledge. So that has become, you know, the food has become kind of like public safety good. So in a way, I always say this, that who we are going to elect next time to be our leaders, they are the ones who understand the questions of public safety and public health, and the food that is behind of it is really crucial part of that. And when one hears the stories how some countries are failing, so our wise politicians who want to be leading us also in the future, they will pay a lot of attention to these questions that we are talking here tonight.
Thank you, Pekka. I think we'll also open up, as we have promised, we have lots of engaged people and our audience at your home computers. So we will have some questions from our on-screen audience. So please.
Yes, this is to all the panelists. In a world where the viruses spread from farm animals to humans with frightening implications, and where potato and seaweed is a superfood, when will the meat era end?
Oh, that's a tough question and very timely. Maybe we'll start with you, Eva, in Sweden. When will the meat era end?
Oh, I don't think it will end. No. We have, they are, well, I've been in meat science for 20 years, more than 30 years, and we must remember that the cow is fantastic to eat the grass and make such a good thing out of it. So, and it takes care of the fields and so on. But we shouldn't eat so much. We should reduce to half of it, especially here in the country. So I think in the Western countries, so reduce to half it, but there will be no end. I hope not.
So no end.
That's my view.
Yeah, no, but that's reduction, but no end. Eun, what
no end.
Well, I'm not sure exactly, but I saw in the scientific prospect, maybe in the 30 years later, the seaweed, including microalgae, they can substitute 18% of the global protein market. That is the prospect. Yeah.
So there are alternatives.
Yes, alternatives.
Can you manage without meat in Finland, Pekka?
I would like to say it this way, maybe reflecting the other, that the balanced diet as a whole is very important. And that's the cue to cure some of our diseases. So normally when one goes too strongly to one side, it can cause other problems. So I would not like to see it that way either. The other question is then that how good we are with the climate change and these other environmental questions. I don't want to, well, I'm old enough, so I'll die away, but I would not like the future generations be in the world where all the food is produced in laboratories, and so that the situation is so bad. You know, even that kind of scenarios have been created, that that's the only way to produce the food in the future. So like now we are talking about really processed food, but if that's the only way that the planet will survive. But there are, you know, these kind of discussions going on. And I think the seaweed is a good example of that we don't have to go to that end. Seaweed has lots of answers to those questions that food produced in the laboratory the same way could answer. But I think in anything in life, I don't like fanatism this way or that way.
So we're more on the balance side so far, but we have more questions. Yeah, Eva?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, how is the taste of this seaweed protein? Have you done any products out of it?
Excellent.
In protein? Even in the pyrophia, the amino acid is included in pyrophia.
I think Eva, if I understood you correctly, the taste. You were wondering about the taste of seaweed. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very good.
It's very good. I mean, you asked the question in the right place. We all of us here in the oil tank in Seoul, we love seaweed. So, we have to provide something for you, Eva, back in Sweden. We have to make sure that we can send you some seaweed. We have more questions, Susanna?
We have another question about seaweed, and this is to the Nordics. To Asians, seaweed is very popular and a healthy food ingredient. Is it also popular in the Nordic countries, and is it easy to be found?
It's not clear.
Nordics.
No, I think. Can you repeat the question? I think it's a little bit closer to.
The microphone.
I think we'll
close your microphone,
This
please.
is a question for the Nordic country, for the Nordic speakers. For Asian people, seaweed is popular and a healthy food ingredient. Is it also popular in the Nordic countries, and is it easy to be found?
I think we more or less got that answer already, based on, because Eva, as you say, you asked us what is the taste like of seaweed, and I think that implies that it's not a widely recognized food in the Nordic countries. I can answer directly from a Norwegian perspective. Of course, you can get seaweed, but it's not a widely and very common thing to find in the stores. Eva, you would agree in Sweden?
Yeah. So I have to go and try to find it.
Yes, same in Finland, I guess.
I would say that this is a question of individual choices. I have been eating seaweed a long time already. It's basically because we are getting quite many allergies of dairy allergies, gluten allergies. So seaweed has come, at least in my family, sort of like substitute food when you have to look for other sources of good protein and energy. So I think it's getting more popular, and I would say the younger generation definitely in Finland knows seaweed. No question about that.
Exactly. You can get it, but it's definitely on a totally different level than here in Korea. That's I think that's no doubt. We have more questions.
We have, and this is for everyone. How can the private sector drive a bigger part of the research and development needed to improve food innovation and secure food for 10 billion people?
The private sector, the role of the private sector. We have touched a little bit upon it. You mentioned the importance of money and funding, Eva. What can the private sector do?
Yes, the private sector here is very important. Very important because they can contribute with money and and I think you can notice with the bigger enterprises that they are more and more interested in these as we are startups, and they really go and search for all the new ideas that is popping up in the startups, and they really care for that. So I think it's a development that has started now rather recently, as far as my concern.
Thank you. Pekka?
Yeah. I mean, I mentioned in the beginning the 2030 food project in our country. It's a private government initiative, so all our plans are based on that. You know, our farmers nowadays, you know, of course the production has changed enormously, especially when we joined the European Union. But I have to say that they are quite creative. So, and the younger generations even, they don't want to leave the countryside. So they want to find new ways. So there the private sector really comes and is helpful. We are actually in the process of starting to also to export to Korea quite many this kind of products, starting from skin products and you name it, but all based on what is grown in the farm, but then has the private company connection.
Eun, would you like to add anything on the private sector, what they can do?
Well, recently, especially for pyrophia, farmers realize, pyrophia can make money. So many people, even young people, they trying to do to be a farmers for pyrophia. So also the CJ company, they own the seaweed part of their companies. So also another the one Kijangmulsan called the one private company, they got the seaweed standard certifications. That is the second in the world. So private companies also they are doing very well in Korea.
Well, thank you very much, and it just underlines also the cooperation that everybody has a role. We are drawing to, as we always say, time flies when you're having fun, and this has indeed been I think it's been it's been a very interesting evening as well. But before we try to round off, I would give you one very, very short challenge. If there's one take on tonight's discussion, on tonight's exchange of views, something we should remember, what would you want us to bring us back home?
Enjoy seaweed.
Enjoy seaweed. Short and sweet, and very tasty. Pekka?
I mean, this is an innovative field, so let's be, adventurous, and let's try to get healthier. And there's definitely a health and safety issue here involved as well. So let's change our customs. It really benefits us, not the contrary.
And Eva, what would you want us to remember specifically tonight?
I would like to say that food production in its distribution throughout the world is really a multitask, and it demands so much diversified expertise. So the only way to solve this is to collaborate over the borders and let the global economy continues and don't stop it now by the pandemic. So I think it's so much, the global economy makes people more rich and can afford to buy the food and so on. I think this is collaboration is the word.
Thank you so much. I think that's a very nice ending of our debate. And a big round of applause to Eva, to Eun, and to Pekka.
Thank you, Frode.
Dear friends, just to a few words before we round up this evening. The corona pandemic, as we have touched upon, has changed how we work, how we eat, how we live, and that leads us to innovate and learn, which the WHO Director General has stated on many events. And especially in these times of unprecedented insecurities, both the Republic of Korea and the Nordic countries should work together to drive innovation and learn from each other's success. And this is what Nordic Talk is all about. Today we have discussed strides that the Nordics and Republic of Korea are making to create sustainable food production and to make them systemized. And before we conclude tonight's program, which has been a very, very interesting one, I would also like to use this opportunity to thank our great partners, because this would not be possible without our great partners. And from the bottom of our hearts, thank you to Seoul Metropolitan Government, the Oil Tank Culture Park, IKEA, Carlsberg, Crazy Cocoa, Christian Hansen, the Norwegian Seafood Council, and not least Nordic Council of Ministers, who is also financing this. And I would also like to thank all of you who has made this evening special. There's a lot of work involved in this. This is our 6th in a row, and we all know how much that needs to be organized in order to make such an evening possible. On your way out, all of you who are here, remember to take one little grab bag with some surprises on the way out. That's something that is provided by our Nordic sponsors and co-organizers. And once again, thank you to all our speakers in our 2 sessions tonight. It's been enlightening and expanding and opening our eyes to some of the challenges, but also some of the possibilities that we need to face the challenges that are coming our way in the near future. I would also like to remind you that our next event this was our last event in 2020, but we'll be back with more Nordic Talks in 2021. The first one being quite early in the year. We'll come back with more information, focusing on green technologies. And to know exactly time and place, I will encourage you to sign up to our newsletter and stay updated on NordicTalksKorea.com. Thank you once again, all of you here in the oil tanks tonight, and all of you following us at home. Thank you for joining in on Nordic Talks. We're looking forward to seeing you soon again. Good night.